Hey guys, welcome back. So I got a video for y'all today all about this palette right here. This is the BH Cosmetics Royal Affair 20 color shadow palette. So we are going to talk about the pricing, we'll look at the packaging, we'll look at some swatches, I'll let you guys know what I think about the formula of these shadows, how they are to work with, and my overall thoughts and opinions on this palette, and then I will also show you a tutorial on how I did this look right here. So yeah, let's get on into it. So the price of this palette will vary based on what kind of sales are going on at the time, but retail price it's $18. As far as the packaging goes, this is what the outside sleeve looks like. So there is that, and then this is what the actual palette looks like. So as I understand it, this is part of BH Cosmetics holiday collection, and I'm just not super wowed or in love with this packaging. I love cute packaging. I'm really sucked in by packaging. It, I think, has a big part of how I like a palette. I mean, of course, I'm looking at quality and how the palette is to work with, number one, but the packaging always like sucks me in if it's super cute. But I do love the idea of keeping the price point low. So if it's gonna mean super involved packaging, if that's gonna mean raising the price point, then I'm not all about that. So I don't mind simple packaging, but I don't know, I think the fact that this is supposed to be part of the holiday collection, it's just kind of like not very holiday looking to me. So that's just my thoughts on the packaging. It's still like sturdy and functional, but just doesn't draw me in. You do get a usable mirror in here. And then as far as the overall theme of this palette, it's overall pretty neutral. I mean, there are some interesting shades thrown in here, like this one, which is kind of a chartreuse green, yellowy sort of color. This one is a fun duochrome shade. This one really seems to be, I don't know, sort of the odd man out from this palette because it's kind of a little bit fairy-like, mermaidy sort of a shadow. So it doesn't seem to quite match the rest of what's in here, but I do really like that shadow, and I do have that on the inner corners of my eyes. So you've got some ones like that in here that are a little bit different, but overall it's pretty neutral. There are a few kind of jewel tones in here, like this one. I don't know if you could really call that a jewel tone, but like a deeper green in there. So I look at this and I think neutral, or I think a good transition palette for fall into winter. Do I look at it and think super holiday? Not necessarily, but I think that I was really able to create a very holiday-ish sort of a look with it. So I think it's one that when you first look at it, you may go, I don't really know, but there are definitely a lot of things you can do with this palette. All gonna overall be pretty neutral, but still some creativity to be had in this palette. And I do like that the middle row is like full of metallic-y sort of shades. So good balance of metallics and mattes in here as well. Now for some swatches starting on the top left side of the palette, this is Rain, Majesty, Lord, Lady, that one's a fun shade, Regal. Next row, this is Crown, Duchess, Imperial, got Monarch, Enchanted. Third row, we've got Throne, Palace, High Tea, Empress, Aristocrat. Bottom row, we've got Primrose, Prince, Honor, Emperor, and Princess. So there are all the swatches. So as far as the formula goes on these shadows and how they are to work with, so there are some different things happening in this palette. So first off, let's talk about the mattes. The mattes are really good. They are like a buttery sort of a texture to them. They're pigmented, they're easy to apply, easy to blend, easy to work with. Minimal fallout, they are pigmented, so you don't need a ton of product. So if you get too much product on your brush, you may end up with some fallout. So I would just say, don't use a ton of product, still tap off your brush. That's always a good idea when working with eyeshadows. But just overall, a great formula on the matte, so I'm very impressed with those. The shimmery shades, there are some different things happening. Like a couple of them seem to be pretty tightly packed where they seem like they could develop some hard pan. Like this is one of those. So That's probably not going to be a problem unless you are swatching your palette a lot, so I wouldn't go swatching your palette a ton. Really just use brushes, but you may end up having to use a kind of grittier sort of a brush and kind of push your brush across it to kind of keep that product loosened a little bit and help to avoid that hard pan. So I noticed that with a couple of them just as I'm swatching them. And then a couple others are kind of a loosely packed sort of a shimmery shade, like these two. With those, they're definitely very workable, but I would absolutely use a setting spray with them because that's going to help to just hold them together. And really, I would use a setting spray with any of the metallic-y shades just because that's going to help to kick them up a notch. But then also specifically with those loosely packed ones, it's going to help hold them together a little bit. So kind of some different things happening in here, but I think the shimmery shades are definitely workable, and then the mattes are awesome. So overall thoughts on this palette. So I'm a little bit torn about it. You know, using it, I think it's a very nice palette. I think it's a nice quality palette, especially because of those mattes. I think it's just, I'm a little bit underwhelmed for this being a holiday palette, but I think it's one of those I'm gonna have to kind of fall in love with the more that I use it, because using it, I really had a great experience working with it. I think this is a really pretty eye look. So I think it's one that as I play with it more, I'm gonna fall more in love with it. I really feel like the reason I'm not instantly jumping at it and saying, I'm in love with this palette is really just the presentation. Really, I think it's the packaging, which is ultimately not a deal breaker, but I'm just always sucked in by packaging. So I really feel like if I'm getting down to the nitty gritty, that's why I'm not jumping up and down excited about it. But I do think it's a really nice quality palette that you can create some very beautiful looks with. All right, guys, so those are my overall thoughts. So now we're gonna get to the tutorial on this look right here. So let's get to it. Okay, so I've already applied some eyeshadow primer. So I'm gonna start with some of Rain on just kind of a fluffy crease brush. This is a Moda crease brush. Tap that off and just set my eyeshadow primer. I'm going to get some of Empress on a Cozette S175 brush and apply this into my crease and transition area. I'm going to take some of Majesty on a Cozette D220 brush and apply that kind of in the same area and then also in my outer corner. So concentrating it in the outer corner and then bringing it across into my crease, keeping it a little bit lower than that first shade. I want to use some of this berry color right here. This is Princess. So I'm going to get this on a detailer brush from Real Techniques. And I'm going to apply this onto my lid, kind of in the outer, like not all the way over, but just right in here. And I think I'm gonna need some setting spray. Yeah, just using some setting spray to help amp this up a little bit. Now I'm gonna take a small crease brush and get some of Regal. And I'm going to put this in my outer corner. Keep that right out there for that depth and dimension. Taking that first color, Empress, and this Cozette brush and just doing a little bit of blending. I like those burgundy shades, those are pretty. I want to bring in some fun silver, so I'm going to use some of High Tea on a flat concealer brush. Get that on my brush, tap off my brush. This one is a more loosely packed shadow. I just want to show you dry what it looks like. So there it is dry. So still pretty, but I would definitely use this with a setting spray to help kind of hold it together and then also kick it up a notch. So I'm really keeping this on the inner part. I'll go back in with some of that kind of berry color, but I really want the silver kind of more on the inner part of my eyelid. Now I'm going back in with that detailer brush and Princess. I'm just going to apply a little bit more of that, just kind of blending the silver and that burgundy together. Just kind of going back and forth until that line is nice and seamlessly blended. So I'll pick up my other brush, go over it a little bit more with that silvery color, just kind of back and forth until there's a nice blend. Now I'm going to apply some liner and mascara to my upper lash line and upper lashes. Going to use my Kat Von D Tattoo Liner and my It Cosmetics Superhero. So I'm going to apply those and I'll be right back. I went ahead and applied some concealer and powder. So now for my lower lash line, I'm going to start with this Mally Evercolor Starlight Waterproof Liner in Starshine. And just going to line this along my lower lash line. Now I'm going to take some of Majesty on a BH Cosmetics number 10 brush and apply this kind of in the outer half of my lower lash line. You can see I'm going a little bit under that liner, so you can still kind of see the silver, but then you also have the brown under there too. Now I'm going to take a Sigma eyeliner brush. This is an E05, and I'm going to get some of that silver shade on that brush, tap it off, spray it with some setting spray, and then apply this on kind of the inner half of my lower lash line, just so it's nice and silvery. And then just for a little fun pop, I'm going to get some of this shade. This is Throne on a little pencil brush. I'm going to get that and pop just a little bit of this on the inner corners of my eyes. Now I'm just going to finish up with some CoverGirl Clump Crusher on my lower lashes and finish up the rest of my makeup. Alright guys, so that wraps up this video. So I hope that you really enjoyed it and I hope it was helpful for you. Please do a thumbs up if it was. Let me know down below what you think about this palette. I love hearing your thoughts and opinions, so let me know what you're thinking down below. Ask me any questions that you have. I'm happy to answer those. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!